Coming up, what role, if any, did ramped-up hate rhetoric and political dialogue play in the Gabrielle Giffords shootings? Plus, I discuss my favorite in entertainment in 2010. Don't move, it's the Annie Duke Show. Welcome to the Annie Duke Show. I'm your host, still Annie. Brian in the corner is out this week, so in his place, we have our special guest, Steve Chops Price, who's at the table.
I know, I feel so special.
You're not even in the corner. Did you know last week, did you hear last week that there was some riffing on your name?
What was the conclusion, or what was the big takeaway on the name?
Steven Weber thinks your name is retarded.
Steven Weber.
But he's like, Chops, what kind of the name is that? I said, well, I don't know. I went to school with people named Skip. He goes, Skip, that's at least in the vernacular. What is the name? I don't know if you got a chance to watch it, but you were a big topic of conversation.
Yeah, no, I actually heard Brian in the corner made me aware, and he's like, you gotta listen to the first 5 minutes of this, and it's like,
it was all a riff on the name Chops.
I'm getting a little hate from Steven Weber. That's cool.
Well, to be fair, Jamie and Swift thought it was a pretty stupid name too.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe you could magically make it change.
Right. No.
I don't mind it, but I've known you for a long time, so.
It's cool.
I hope Brian, when he comes and sees that, he's jealous that you're sitting right here instead of over there in the corner.
Yeah, I know. But I think Brian likes the spot in the corner. He's okay with it.
Yeah?
Yeah. He's all right with the corner.
I think he likes it. He likes to be able to allow the spotlight.
Yeah, he's a corner man. Yeah,
that's true.
He's a corner man.
Good point. Well, listen, we're going to, I guess in honor of you being here, we're going to change some gears with today's show.
Okay.
Instead of our interview first we're going to discuss if politically heated hate rhetoric played a role at all in the assassination attempt on Representative Gabrielle Giffords in Arizona. Of course, people are saying that it did. And at the end of the show, I'm going to do a final recap of my favorite in entertainment in 2010. After we have a little discussion, we're going to interview our guest, Peter Shankman, today. So joining me today is Peter Shankman. Peter founded Help a Reporter Out and is a noted social media entrepreneur, author, and speaker. And you might be interested in this. He's vowed to get to 10% body fat before the end of the year.
What's he at now?
I don't know. I checked. It's somewhere in the 20s. We'll ask him. I think that he was down to like 25.5 the last one I checked, but I'm not.
25.5. That's a lot of body fat.
I know. I think he was at like 27 or so. I hope that it was. I hope I'm not casting aspersions. Maybe it was 17, but I think it was in the 20s.
Okay.
So he says he's going to get to 10%. We're going to talk to him about that little project.
Okay.
So we'll see. But before we go any further, Chops.
Yes.
Can you tell our audience how they can join in the discussion and interact with us?
Absolutely.
All like three of you.
Interactive show, as you know. Go into the chat log. I can actually pick up on questions. I can read it, so you don't have to type the Q:. I get it. If you're asking a question, I'll pick it up. Get as many in as you can for Peter for the discussion that we're going to have on hate rhetoric and the incident with Gabrielle Giffords, and we will get to as many as we can in the show.
All right. I think Peter's here. I see him in the window. Can you hear me? Hi, Peter. Can you hear me?
Hey guys, how are you doing?
So we were just, what is your body fat right now? Because I looked online the other day. I want to know if I'm right.
Well, apparently it's a lot. So I'm really like,
I didn't say that, by the way.
Offend me.
No, what is it right now?
It's about 24. I think it's about 24%, which for a 6 foot tall guy, a relatively big build husky guy isn't that much.
See, you need to apologize to him right now.
You know what though? I had a fitness prop bet once where I had to get my body fat up and then drop it down. In that, I guess we're similar. You said 6 foot.
Yeah.
So we're similar build, and I actually got up to 25.5 for me.
See?
Yeah. So
there you go. We're going to talk about that in a little bit.
Cool.
But first, we're going to talk about Gabrielle Giffords. Yes. Have you been following that?
Yeah.
Have you been following the rhetoric about the rhetoric?
Whenever something happens that has any political ramifications in this country, rhetoric seems to be the first word that journalists turn to, and I almost have this image of a rhetoric, walking around carrying a Glock. It's
right.
The fact of the matter is, let's not, we can talk about hate speech and talk about how much of it how much it played a part or didn't play a part. But let's not forget that it was a guy with a gun in his hand that went up and shot this woman in cold blood. And,
well, that's the thing, right?
Someone shot her. That you're not going to deny that.
So the thing that everybody's pointing to, and I think we have a graphic of it, don't we?
Yeah.
Of the Sarah PAC. So
Yeah.
did you know Sarah Palin has a PAC? Sarah PAC. That terrifies me a little bit. But what you can see is that it's time to take a stand, and what they've used as the symbol for taking a stand is the gun sights. 3 of them are red, of course, looks like with blood, of people that they've already gotten out. And then down you can see Arizona, for those of you who can read a map, right next to California down there. And one of those targets is actually on Gabrielle Giffords.
I saw that. I tweeted that out actually on Saturday when it was first brought to my attention. And you know, the Twitter stream that follows me was about 90%. Oh my God, that's disgusting, and then about 10%. Oh well, you know, you're obviously just using that as a way to insult Sarah Palin, and you're inflaming political rhetoric, and if you were really upset about this, you would have complained about it months ago. To which my response was, I never had any reason nor desire to visit Sarah Palin's website prior to this.
Right, exactly, right. So the thing, you know, so I put this on Facebook, and the reason why I put it on Facebook and not Twitter is that I know that almost 100% of the people on Facebook that I'm friends with thought that was really horrible. So I was literally just pandering to people who thought like I did by putting it on Facebook. But the problem for me with it is not so much, look, it was kind of silly because people were sort of spreading it around, including me, right? And obviously including you, Peter. You know, immediately after the shooting, before anybody even knew anything about Jared Loughner, right? So that's kind of silly to automatically start connecting that up before you know anything about this guy. However, I think that in the aftermath, people have sort of missed the point, right? Which is people are like, oh, well, it's not fair for you to blame Sarah Palin, and you're using it to attack Sarah Palin and say that Sarah Palin's responsible for the shooting. And I think that misses the point, because it's not, is Sarah Palin responsible for the shooting? It's shooting aside. Is that a responsible graphic to have on your website? Mm-hmm. Right?
Well, that was my question. I mean, you know, whether the shooting happened or not, well, who the hell puts crosshairs?
Right.
You know, crosshairs have no place
particularly
in the political
like the bloody ones,
yeah,
the
you
people
got the bloody
that they've actually taken out, right? That's the one that I find particularly offensive.
But I mean, again, we're talking about a woman who pardoned the Thanksgiving turkey at I believe was it at a rendering plant for turkeys or something like that, where you know, so it's like, you know, there's that. Yes,
right. That's the thing, right? So, you know, I don't know. I don't think we have the sign, but there was another sign they showed of somebody from the Tea Party with a sign that said ballots or bullets. So I feel like that should read ballots, not bullets.
Right.
Personally.
I look
right?
at look. I mean, you want to talk about ridiculous signs. I mean, I can never take anything. Not only the Tea Party, but Democrats, Republicans, anyone. The people within the parties, I can never take their signs seriously, because any party, they have the stupidest freaking signs you'll ever see in your life. I mean, I actually saw. I was at a rally. I was doing a run. It was the Nation's Triathlon in Washington D.C. this past summer, and I'm doing the 10K portion of the run, and there's some sort of Fox News protest going on, and there's a guy there, and I kid you not, I ran past him, and I nearly crashed into a tree reading this. He had a sign. He's holding it up, and he goes, the sign reads, "This is a sign." And I'm just sort of running, going, what the hell was that? And so, you know, you look at that. I don't so much worry about the people carrying the signs. They're all going to be weird. I worry about the people who have the platform and who have the voice. You know, it's not the one guy in the little house. It's the people who have the platform and the voice. And if you have a voice, you know, with a lot of people following you, I don't see where an image of crosshairs fits to any sort of political debate.
Well, this is the thing. So, you know, one thing that I did appreciate is that, I don't know, did either of you see Keith Olbermann's little, you know, his thing about it?
No, I haven't seen it.
So basically what he said is that we all need to watch our rhetoric, because the rhetoric of violence and taking people out and the violence with which sort of political campaigns are being conducted now, and the really extreme negativity, which can really radicalize followers, right? I mean, if we think about, you weren't here the day that we had Shannon Rossmiller on, but she talks about the fact that you have regular just Americans walking around, and they get on the internet, and there's these Facebook groups and these crazy like internet games called like Kill George Bush and things like that, and people get radicalized by this rhetoric. Particularly young people can get radicalized by the rhetoric. And he said, we all have to watch it. And he took responsibility and pointed out to rhetoric that he had used, that he felt went into that category, and that he was promising to be more thoughtful about it. And I did appreciate that he took responsibility as somebody who's obviously on the left for saying that I've also been guilty of using that rhetoric. Because the one thing that I do want to say is that obviously while the Palin thing is pretty disgusting, it's not like when you listen to MSNBC, they're all like peace, love, and like let's all have little peeps and bunnies and goodies and run through the meadow either. I don't know if you've listened to Chris Matthews or whatever, but it's equally bad on for the left talking heads. And I think that that's the word that really bothers me, is that word talking head.
I think it would be nice if we all sort of played nice in the sandbox. Unfortunately, if we look at this from a truly completely non-altruistic standpoint, playing nice in the sandbox doesn't generate ratings.
See, that's the problem, right?
Or get you elected.
What's his name generates ratings? Who's the scary guy on Glenn Beck?
Glenn Beck.
I love that I just have to say who's the scary guy, and everyone's Glenn Beck.
The lunatic,
well, he actually, he's one of the. If we think about, what Sarah did with the crosshairs, Glenn Beck actually at some point said that we should kill Obama.
Yeah, that's
so he actually used those words.
But
so that's as extreme as it gets.
New York Post just reported yesterday that he's being kicked off of WOR in New York for failing ratings.
Oh, really?
So,
maybe people are turning around.
The louder people, full of sound and fury signifying nothing. I think the louder they speak, they get their moment of fame. But the louder they are, the more fleeting that moment. So as Glenn Beck's star starts to fall, I think we're going to see that. You're going to have to find that middle ground.
Yeah, I mean, I always talk about the 24 hours of news, and I think somebody tweeted the other day, Fox News would promise to, tone down the rhetoric, except that they wouldn't have a network. So, and I think that that's the problem. I think I won't watch either. I won't watch MSNBC, and I won't watch Fox News. I won't watch either of them, because I think that once you have to fill that much time on a network, it just does become extreme and violent and hateful and divisive and all of those things, and then there's this extra problem, which is, I heard something really, one of the silliest things that I've ever heard, which was, oh, well, but he got the gun legally.
Right.
Whereas, like, he has a history of mental health issues.
What's really scary, what really scared me is that, and I just read this as I was waiting to go on, Glock sales are up 69%. On Monday, they were up 69% from the Monday a year ago. Because after you
free advertising,
right?
Well, no, after you have a major incident like that, anytime the first thing people think of who want to buy guns is that, oh my God, they're going to ban them, so they run to the store and they buy 18 Glocks, and
that is so awful. Which they can do apparently in Arizona. Just walk into a store and be like, "Give me one of those." They're like, "Sure."
Remember the Family Guy episode where they went to Texas and they get a free gun for opening a bank account?
Right.
Brian walks out with like 2 guns. He's like, I don't understand.
Right. I mean, but that's a really big issue for me, because I've heard people say, well, you have to understand, he could have killed her with a knife. And I'm like, yes, he could have killed her with a knife.
Right. Not 20 people.
He couldn't have killed the 9-year-old girl, who, by the way, did you know that 9-year-old girl was born on 9/11?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Isn't that awful? Did you know that?
No, I did not hear that.
Isn't that really heartbreaking?
Yeah.
That's like the worst. And then there was a woman's husband who got in the way of gunfire in order to protect her. And obviously, I agree, he could have killed her with a knife, but he could have only killed one person with a knife. He couldn't have sprayed the crowd. And he has a history of mental illness, and this is the same thing that happened in Virginia, where you had somebody who clearly was having mental issues, who somehow gets a hold of a firearm and just, shoots people on campus. Obviously, you have. Honestly, I don't. The gun laws in particular in America, I'm very confused by, because we have all sorts of examples of how much less violence you get if you just remove guns from the equation. England is obviously the best example, right?
Mm-hmm. I was with a friend of mine from Wales when this story broke, and we were sitting, we're having a cup of coffee, and we're watching on CNN. He goes, I go, just don't say it. I know.
Right. This never happens, right? Right?
Exactly.
And here's the confusing thing to me, and perhaps you guys can clarify this for me, because I've never had anybody be able to clarify it. So I understand that people point to, Second Amendment, right? We have a right to bear arms. So I get that. But then it's followed by in a well-organized militia. So that's the confusing part to me, because shouldn't you only get to have arms if you're in an army? Like, I don't understand what the distinction is there. Like, why is it that an individual can go and buy a gun, but it says clearly in that particular amendment in a well-organized militia? So I don't understand what that piece means. Why is it there if an individual can go buy a gun? Do you know? Because I really don't understand it.
I will recuse myself from answering this because I know I'm not smart enough to. Although I think that basically it's what you said. I think when the founding fathers wrote this, it was the time of the militia. There was,
Right.
We didn't have the largest army in the world with F-18s hovering over the place. We had militia who were sworn to protect
But here's my:
our
is an
society.
individual a militia? That's my question. See, that's what I don't understand about
And
that
that's
amendment.
a big question, dollars. I could not even, I spend most of my time yelling at the TSA because I travel so much.
Yeah, right, exactly.
That's about where
right?
my rant. That's about the extent of my rant on that.
But because I understand that, like in Montana, there's a lot of militias, right? Like I get that, but shouldn't you have to have some sort of militia card or something?
Militia membership.
Like, yeah, you have to be like a member of the American Militia Association, or I mean, that's what's confusing to me. Like, if you read that, because everybody's like, no. We Second Amendment, you have the right to bear arms in a well-organized militia. That means that we have to protect gun rights. Apparently that extends to automatic weapons, which I am also very confused by. I don't understand why that extends to that, but whatever. So let's say that we take that literally. Then I don't understand why you don't have to have a militia card.
Have a well-organized militia. No, I mean, what you're saying, though. Having
you have to go get certified with the government. Like, you have to register your militia. The government has to certify that it's well organized. Because it says right in there it has to be a well organized militia. Right? This is the plan. I'm going to change the U.S. government. I'm going to say we're going to have the well organized militia agency.
Would you consider the Tea Party a well organized militia?
Actually,
well, if they registered, they would have to register, and then you get to go, and you'd have to certify them.
I'm a Tea Party member. Here's my militia card. Give me a gun.
Here's my militia card.
Where's my gun?
Right.
Militia is one of those words that if you say way too many times, it just loses all meaning.
Oh, this is what I think, though. I think the well-organized militia agency would be more effective than the Transportation Security Authority.
Right.
WOMA.
Right? That's what I'm saying. Right.
WOMA.
I'm a card-carrying WOMA member.
That's what I'm saying, right? So then you go in and you have your well-organized militia card, and you're like, there should only be one guy in the militia that gets to go buy the guns for all the people in the militia, and then they can distribute the guns to the militia members, right? See, now wouldn't that, then at least you'd be following the amendment, right? Am I wrong? Maybe a constitutional
Stop saying militia.
Lawyer. Stop saying militia. It's kind of a funny word, right?
There's something about that word. It just totally. I hear militia, and maybe it's just because I'm from New York City and I grew up with two Jewish parents. I hear militia, I think Meshuggah and
Meshuggah, right?
Which is probably what most militia people are. So I mean,
That could very well be. And then the thing about the automatic weapons is really confusing to me anyway, because I get, like, if you need a shotgun to hunt or something. I think if you have a handgun, you're more likely to kill yourself. So I guess I'm sort of okay with people having handguns.
It's population control.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's like it weeds out, like, kind of survival of the fittest. But the automatic weapon thing, automatic weapons seem to be only for drug dealers. Am I wrong? Like, who else is buying automatic weapons? SWAT team.
SWAT teams.
Yeah. But
SWAT
again, that's
team
government.
and drug dealers.
And drug dealers.
I've never seen my drug dealer with an automatic weapon, though, I should say.
Well, I don't, to be fair.
Have you ever pissed them off, though?
Exactly. I usually if you pay on time,
Right.
And to be fair, I think that by drug dealers, I'm talking about the higher ups anyway. I think, or it's the higher ups with
Someone's watching season 1 of Miami Vice on iTunes. I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think your last name is like Escobar, and then you have like the automatic weapon, right?
Yep.
So that because the SWAT team members, they can get the automatic weapons already, because we let the right. So then the only people who are actually buying the automatic weapons are the drug dealers. And I don't think they could get a well-organized militia card.
Although, quite frankly,
No.
if your last name is Escobar, I seriously doubt you're actually going into a store in Tucson buying your AK-17s.
Yes, but that's true. But then again, they probably aren't in America, so it's their minions.
Exactly.
They're minions in America.
the minions.
It's the minions in America. So I mean, look, I think that once again, maybe we should examine gun laws. Although apparently that never changes, which I don't understand why. Right?
Because the NRA is a very, very, very powerful.
It's very powerful.
Unbelievably powerful lobby, and it's given their influence, and we've dealt with lobby groups in our various
Yes.
forms. It's the lobby groups that come in and control and write the laws and control the politicians, and the NRA are a long-standing, incredibly powerful, if not one of the most powerful. So,
But the only reason for somebody to have a gun is to go shoot an animal, and you only need a shotgun for that. It frustrates me so much. I want to hear them in a politician's office without handing the politician money under the table explain why somebody needs an automatic weapon.
I think it's to the point, though, just where if you look at how long that law in that lobby is in place and how much money is there, that
I know,
it's just something that it's there.
You know what we've determined? American politics is gross right now.
Yeah, the whole thing,
People
the whole
are screaming.
system. The media,
Here's the
the
problem.
system.
Think about this hand in hand. You have Glenn Beck saying, kill Obama, and then the guy can go into the gun store and go get an automatic weapon without his well-organized militia
Right.
card.
Yeah,
That's the problem.
yeah.
Right? So it's kind of synergistic, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so I heard somebody saying, Loeffner, he definitely didn't have anything to do with the Tea Party because he's an atheist. And then I was like, wait, are you saying that because he's an atheist, that's why he,
Right.
I don't
Wasn't
even know
he
what that meant.
supposedly extreme left? Like his friend in high school described him as a left-winger too, or?
Well, so I don't know. What have you heard lately? Because I first heard it was because he was pissed off about the immigration law.
Right, I'd heard that one.
But then I don't know what the latest out of him is, so maybe you could
Is it
point
just
out.
that he's crazy?
I think it's just that he's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, is it just that he's
I think in
cra-
the end it's just that he's crazy, so
Yeah.
then we should all go back and say, how did he get a gun?
Right, how did the crazy guy get a gun?
Right, and then we should say, well, I understand the whole Sarah Palin thing, but
It wasn't
didn't have anything
necessarily-
to do with it. It didn't have anything to do with it, but it's a good time to examine the Sarah PAC and the rhetoric that's coming out of it.
Right. 'Cause
Right.
Well, the thing though is that from everything I've read with Giffords, she's felt, if not necessarily immediately physical harm, she's felt threatened in the
Right.
district before.
Right.
And over-the-top protesters, you were talking about the signs earlier.
Right.
Like over-the-top protesters and signs, not the nice, quaint little American Idol signs, but more
No.
like, your ballots or
Yeah.
bullets type signs.
Right,
and,
exactly.
and it's something that she has brought up. Like she has felt that tension or that cauldron of hate, I guess, within that
Right.
district before.
I do, by the way, I want to say one thing. I was watching the CNN coverage, and I can't remember, it wasn't Wolf Blitzer, it was some other anchor at the time. And I think it was some guy they pulled out of the bathroom because they were like, oh, no, nobody's here, damn it. And they just put on a suit coat. Because he sat here, he asked one of the greatest questions I've ever heard. I actually screamed at Joe, as I do sometimes. I mean, not at him, I mean, I was screaming and Joe was there, so
Right.
I was sort of ranting to him. He says, he's got somebody on the line, he goes, is it common, does it happen a lot for U.S. representatives to get shot? And I'm literally yelling at the TV, I'm like, you live on the earth! Of course it's not, I don't know in my lifetime that a representative is, like Jim Brady got shot,
Right.
I remember that. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I couldn't believe this question that this guy was asking. And this guy was a news anchor. So is it normal? I'm like, wow, how much time do you have to fill that you just ask the world's dumbest question? Do they usually get shot? And so the guy, you could tell, the other guy on the other line was just a little under his breath. He was like, because he goes, well, no, it's not a usual thing for a U.S. representative to get, what are you? So I just wanted to, but I'm going to end this discussion on a high note.
Okay.
Did you all hear that the Sarah Palin show, what is it called, Alaska or something?
Yeah, Sarah Palin.
Sarah
was
Palin's
it
Alaska. It did not get picked up for a second
Well,
season.
you know what? Actually, what's really interesting is that who did it? Discovery
I think it's TLC.
TLC.
I think.
TLC actually had to issue a press release today that said it's not that it didn't get picked up; it was a special. It was a special
Oh, yeah.
that was never designed to have a second season.
Yeah, actually, what I read was that Sarah Palin thought that it might interfere with her running for president.
You know, imagine God, President Palin. That's just wow.
It'll provide
Well,
entertainment. Think of it as something that's going to
if
provide
she runs, I
entertainment.
figure I'm on a free roll because I think that if she runs, the other person will win. I really do like to believe that. And if she doesn't, I'm moving to some very lovely paradise like Costa Rica. So.
As much as I'll tell you this, as much as I love Jon Stewart, and as much as I would love nothing more than for him to get 4 years of just awesome, awesome, awesome ratings every single night,
Which he would.
you got to ask yourself: is that really worth it?
Is that a good trade-off?
to be fair,
is a good Daily Show a good trade-off?
I would like to point out he does pretty well even when the Democrats are in power. To be fair,
Sure.
to be fair. So I think that I'd rather not risk it. You know. Because really, that would, and it's even not so much, would she do tons of damage to our country? I don't know, because I don't think the president actually has that much power in our country. It's more the damage to the image to the rest of the world. That
Well,
I'm
think about what we're still it's going to take another 50 years for other countries to get the same level of respect that we had in the 60s.
Right, exactly. So, I feel like, as an example, as far as I can tell, the economic crisis had pretty much nothing to do with any president and everything to do with Greenspan. So the president doesn't have that much power, really. So I'm not so much concerned about what would happen in this country in particular. I'm just concerned that literally every other country would just laugh at us.
Yeah, it would happen.
You'd be traveling overseas.
They were laughing at us with Bush.
I know, exactly. I went to Venice once while Bush was president, and Joe and I sat down, and the waiter said, "Who did you vote for?" And we just looked at what? He's like, "Well, who'd you vote for in the election?" And we said, "Kerry." And he goes, "Okay, I can serve you then." Like, he literally wasn't going to serve us if we had voted for Bush. That's kind of embarrassing. Yeah. So anyway, there you go. Now you know who I voted for in 2004. We're going to move on now. Okay, so before we get to your whole 10% challenge, which I'm fascinated by because I'm like on a kick myself right now. Let's talk a little bit about your history. So tell me, where did you start? Like, how did you get the idea for the Geek Factory in particular? Like, I'm very interested in that. Being a huge geek myself, so I needed that.
That's a good question. I was actually in graduate school. I was studying fashion and portrait photography, and with 18 credits to go, I lost my financial aid. The government sent me a letter that said, your parents make too much money. We're taking away your financial aid. And
did the rules change, and they didn't tell you?
Back in the 90s, that's what they could do. I sent the government back a letter that said, my parents do make too much money, and they keep it.
I've now grown out of the house, and I'm pretty sure they're not responsible any longer to support me.
Yeah, the government didn't find that funny.
No.
And, but so the things happen. I'm a big believer that the universe unfolds the way it should. So I leave with 18 credits to go, and this is in 94, 95. 3 weeks later, I'm back in my parents' house in New York City, and I'm hanging out in the...
That seems like the logical place to go, given what the government said.
Oh, it gets better. I'm hanging out in the Melrose Place TV gossip chat room, and this was 95. Melrose Place was still good.
Cut him some slack. It's 95.
Long story short, someone in the chat room said, "Hey, my company's trying to build a newsroom. Submit your resume." And 2 weeks later, I was I was hired as one of the founding editors of AOL News. I helped launch the newsroom at AOL. And this was back when everyone thought AOL was the internet. Like, everyone thought,
wow.
You work for AOL. Like, I went to a big building with a door that said the internet, and we all walked inside. It was pretty amazing. So I did that for several years, moved back to New York, launched a PR firm, because I figured that everyone...
Can we back up for 1 second? So, did you have any experience in editing or journalism or news? I mean, you were going to be a photographer or something, right?
I had a journalism degree, dual degree, journalism and photojournalism from Boston University.
Okay, gotcha. All right, gotcha. Okay, because otherwise that's an even crazier story. Like your resume was like, I know a lot about Melrose Place. Can you hire me at AOL
right? And all of a sudden I'm on NewsHour, right? No, I was, it was a little bit of both. I had a little journalism experience. I was a stringer for AP and things like that. But yeah, we made up the rules and went along. It was pretty awesome. And when I moved back from Virginia after 3 years, I was a lot fatter, and I moved back to New York and so started losing a lot of weight and started consulting in PR. And I built this PR agency that catered only to .coms called the Geek Factory.
Right.
And built the Geek Factory, sold the agency to a larger PR firm, kept the name, so I still own the name. I'll never get rid of the Geek. It's just too good of a name.
Yeah, it's a great name.
Did a lot of consulting, was talking to journalists every day, know tons of journalists, and it led to sort of what's up with me now, which is over time I would be talking to these journalists, and they'd say, "Hey, you talk to everyone. Do you have? I'm doing a story on, I don't know, gun control. Who do you know? And I'd go through my little Rolodex and I'd find someone for them. And over time, this started taking a pretty long time to do.
Right.
Like, Peter, we're doing a story on Nigerian farming. Someone at the time said, tons of sub-Saharan soil experts. And I'm like looking at the phone going, yeah, that's how I organize all my friends.
Right.
So I built this Facebook group in 2007 that my logic was I could start out to my friends. And if they could answer it, great. I wouldn't have to do anything. And I figured it would take about, you push it out, and I just keep doing that. I do it as as sort of a favor to my journalist friends. But we outgrew the Facebook group in 2 months. And so I moved it to the web, and I launched a website called helpareporter.com. And it was like about 800 people when I first started it. As of today, Help a Reporter is about 160,000 people who 3 times a day get an email from us with about 75 to 80 queries from journalists all around the world. New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Oprah, Daily Show, you name it. Because the queries have these, if you get into the New York Times, that's awesome for your business. So if you can't not open it. So 3 times a day we send out this email. We have an open rate of like 75% or something. It's pretty obscene. And then we sell a small 4-line text ad on the email. Because we have such a high open rate, it goes for a lot of money. So this past June, my little company that I started as a Facebook group was acquired for a pretty decent amount of money by a large public company in Washington.
Okay, so I have some questions about this. So first of all, obviously at some point you had to move off of Facebook. How many people did Facebook let you have do this?
This was back when you were still there were no fan pages. This was back when we were still using groups, and the groups on Facebook capped at 1,200.
Okay, so then how quickly did you max out at 1,200?
At about 2 months.
Wow.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, everyone was like, "Oh wow, they're giving us free press. Cool, I'll sign up for that."
Okay, so here's my next question. So I'm a reporter, and I write into your thing, and I'm like, I've got some questions about sub-Saharan soil in Nigeria, or whatever. And how do I know that the answers I'm getting are good, are well sourced? That's my big question.
How do you know if they're well sourced if you use Google or Craigslist or walk on the street and ask someone? That's your job.
Well,
You're a journalist. Your job is to vet your sources. We're just providing an easier way to get them.
Okay, so they get in touch with your sources, and then they can go find out who they are.
Like, oh, hey, I'm a sub-Saharan soil expert. Let me reply back to that reporter. So I'll type my email back. And the journalist will say, okay, this person looks like they're pretty real. He has a degree at Harvard. I can check that out. And he's worked in Nigeria. I can check that out. Cool. And they contact each other, and it's up to the journalist. The nice thing about what we do is that about half the queries are for people specific fields. Like I need a lawyer who knows about mine accidents or whatever. But the other half is, okay, I need a family who bought a car in the Car for Clunkers program, and then so like real life people,
right?
And these real life people have literally they wound up on Oprah, they wound up in Family Circle, all these random places, and what winds up happening is there's always a mention of what the company did. We had a reporter doing a story on companies that had to lay people off because of the recession, like about 2 years ago. And this bakery in the Midwest answered, and no one, the bakery was about to lay off like half of its staff and was about to go under. And P.S. they're on the front page of a major daily newspaper 2 days later. They had to hire 6 more people after that story ran. So
wow, that's really cool.
It's awesome. We're changing lives. It's cool stuff.
Okay, so it sounds. I mean, it's interesting because I feel like there's in some ways a paradigm shift in terms of people's revenue models in the world that we're living in today versus the world we were living in even in the first half of the 2000, the first decade of the new millennium.
Yeah.
That sounds so fancy.
Wow, that was I should salute.
Yeah, right. So it's interesting because obviously when you had the PR firm, the Geek Factory, a lot of what you were doing, I assume, was placing people as experts in the field, as sources, and so on and so forth. That was part of your PR strategy, correct? The
shift occurred not so much from where the revenue comes from. I mean, obviously it did. It went from
because those were individuals paying for placement.
Right. The shift, I think the bigger picture from the shift is not so much revenue. The bigger picture from the shift is how people get and give information. 10 years ago, if you wanted to get famous, you'd hire a PR firm. That PR firm would call reporters and say, I have this awesome person. Now, thanks to Harrow, the reporter says, I'm doing this story. Do you have any awesome people?
Right.
And so the concept of the small business having to pay for their placement is gone. You know,
Right.
why pay $10,000 a month for PR when you could just read this list? And I think we're seeing a bigger shift in that. We're seeing a bigger shift in crowdsourcing, and we're also seeing a bigger shift in what Chris Anderson called the freemium model, in the concept of the price of free. Harrow is not free. Harrow is free to receive, but
Right.
the advertisers are paying for those
You see,
eyeballs.
that's the thing that I
where
think is really interesting is that once something's free, it's hard to go back from there. And there's been a model, you know, the internet for a long time has been modeled on free. And so it's always a question of, well, how do you monetize free? So that's what I find really interesting was that it was easy, you know, when you were doing the Geek Factory, it's easy to monetize that. Look, you don't have a way to get to the people that I can talk to because you can't just randomly call the New York Times and say, hey, do you have a story you can put me in, right? So I'm going to pay you in order to do that. Once the internet comes along, well, now I can do that for free myself, right? So then the question is coming in and figuring out, now that the old model is kind of broken, how do you come in and monetize that? But I assume that when you started Harrow, were you thinking ahead to maybe someday I could monetize this, or were you just trying to make your life easier?
I was trying to make my life easier. It was a nice, and plus it was a nice thing to do. You know,
Right.
And you know, I'm not gonna. It was nice to be altruistic, but of course, there's the Rupert Murdoch side of me that says, okay, if I help this reporter out on their deadline, I'm not making any money from this. But one day when I have a story that might work for this reporter, that reporter's gonna remember who I am because I helped him.
Right.
So, you know, there was always that concept of let me help you out, and maybe that'll come back to help me in the future. And then I remember the day American Apparel was our first advertiser, and they called us and they said, you have about 10,000, at that time it was only PR people on the list, and they called me and they go, you have this PR list, and all those people are PR people, and aren't they mostly like women who you see on TV, like in PR, and they're really, really thin, and like they're anorexic and wear our clothing? I remember sitting on the couch in my sweatshirt going, yep, that's us. You know, as I inhale a pizza and stuff. But you know, it was that wake up call of, holy cow, this might be worth something. And
So you weren't even looking for advertising; they called you.
They called me, and the funny thing about
I need
Harrow,
to figure out that business. I need to figure out the business where I start something to make my life easier, and then people start calling me up, going, "Can I give you some money?" For free.
Yeah, because I made my life easier. Can I get paid for that?
Right, exactly. That's the business I've got to work on that business.
It was funny because my one of my advertising guys, once the company was sold, he came to me and he's like, well, you know, we're going to bring on advertising people. And I go, oh, well, you know, I didn't have any advertising people. He goes, yeah, Peter, when someone gets a job selling advertising, unlike you, they actually have to call people and make sales. He's like, that's actually what's selling advertising.
Right.
You're not used to that, because I'm like, oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know there was some sort of strategy to it. I thought people just, your phone started ringing. Who
Exactly.
knew?
Isn't that what's supposed to happen?
And that grew from how many advertisers do you have now?
Well, every Harrow has an advertiser, and we have 3 Harrows a day, 5 days a week. So 15 matcher advertisers each week, and then we have sub-lists, vertical lists, so if you only want to get like business queries or tech queries, and we're starting to sell those too.
And these are click-throughs in the email?
Yeah, they're literally 4-line text, no graphics, nothing. It's strictly text. I've proven that old school still rocks. Old school.
That's some kind of gang symbol.
That's the New York City old school.
Chuck and deuces. It's all right.
By the way, I want to point out, before we move on to your next project, I want to point that our sobers, and in the District of Columbia versus Heller, which was, I guess, in 2008, the court ruled that the Second Amendment protects an individual's right to possess a firearm unconnected to service in a militia. Well, that pisses me off because I can read. What are these? That's the problem when you have Clarence Thomas on the court. He didn't actually read the amendment, because if he read the amendment, he'd know it said in a well-organized militia.
It's got to be well-organized.
I still remember, by the way, just because it's always fun to bash Clarence Thomas.
The Coke can.
When he was dodging the question about whether he supported abortion or not, or what his opinion on abortion is, as all of them do, right? They don't want to answer it. He said, "Well, I've never read Roe v. Wade." I thought that was a very bad answer for someone trying to get on the Supreme Court, because I've read it, and I've never been to law school. I'm not trying to be on the Supreme Court, so I'm pretty sure maybe that was a Clarence Thomas, although he's never made a decision, so it couldn't have been his. What are you going to do? It's like Scalia and his little. Like Scalia's like Batman and Clarence Thomas is Robin. Oh, Batman, what should I do?
You gotta like Scalia, though. You can't bash Scalia.
Scalia's like Batman.
Okay.
He's like the smart one.
Right. Okay,
and then
okay.
Robin's like, what should I do? Tell me what to do. Right? Who's Penguin? That's the question.
Biden.
Cheney.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Cheney, you could
VP
see him with
VPs
the
are
little.
always the VPs.
Yeah, you
I'm
could-
talking about the Burgess Meredith
Right,
penguin. Let
the
me just
Burgess
say
Meredith
that.
penguin.
Cheney's the that's it, right?
It's the,
Not the DeVito
we see in the
penguin.
corner jumping
No,
up and
no,
down.
no, 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 no. Cheney's the Burgess Meredith thing. Okay. Well, Batman, what are you gonna do now? Now that we're waterboarding.
Most surreal interview ever.
And then Bush would have kind of been the Joker.
Is that
then,
in
or
a
Riddler.
good way or a bad way, by the way?
That's a good way.
Oh,
Definitely
okay,
a way.
good. Oh, good. Excellent. He said it was very surreal. How's your Pepsi? Is your Pepsi part of your 10%?
It's Diet Pepsi #1. Okay. If we're gonna
Okay,
label
so
the camera,
it's
label
only
the camera.
it will kill you slightly faster. Yes.
Well, it's also 2 hours. I'm also 2 hours later than where I am. You got me in a hotel room in Salt Lake City tonight.
I'm 2 hours later than where
No,
I
it's
am.
I'm 2 hours later than where I am. I just landed in Salt Lake City, so it's.
Oh, God, okay. So you can understand that might have been a confusing sentence to an English-speaking person.
At 300,000 miles a year, I sort of start to generate my own language.
Hey, you must be like you must get the automatic
I was
upgrade.
invited to the premiere.
Yeah, nice. Excellent.
I get that question a lot. Yeah, I am. It's it gets kind of old really
What's
fast.
your favorite airline? And don't say Delta.
Continental.
Thank God. I thought anybody, because if you said Delta, I'd have to cut you off now on the
No.
assumption that you aren't worth talking to.
Continental and United are of course merging to form the largest airline in the world called Suck Incorporated. But
Yes, that's right.
But
Although I was happy about it because I have a lot of Continental miles and a lot of United miles, so now they can.
they're merging. I'm a Continental loyalist. I've got like 2 or 3 million fly miles with them, and it's just it's gonna help in the respect that there are more ways I can get to where I have to go, but it doesn't change the fact that I'm still stuck in a metal tube for 14 hours at a shot, which kind
Right.
of blows.
Right. Yeah.
So, you know.
Because I have a lot of Continental miles and a lot of United miles, so I'm actually very happy that this merge is happening because I don't have quite enough to do. Whenever I'm booking things, I always want enough miles to do 6 people because of my family.
So a lot is a relative term.
A lot is relative when you're trying to get free tickets for 6 people as
This is
opposed to
true.
1. So
This is true.
it will help me be able to, because I always build it up because I use my miles every year to book the family vacation every spring.
Yep.
That's my goal because I also fly a lot, not like you do, but I also fly quite a bit.
I give them away. I don't want to. If I'm home and don't have to travel, the last thing I want to do is go somewhere. So that's everyone who knows me who gets a birthday gift from me gets miles.
Oh, see, that's really cool. So I would do the same thing, except that I like to take my kids places. So
Yeah. Well, I do that, and you can give 250,000 miles a year to Operation Miles for Heroes, and that's a great organization actually. That when the military sends the troops home, they drop them off at the airport that's most convenient to the military, and then the troops have to figure out how to get their asses back home.
oh, so the miles actually help the.
So Miles to Heroes actually can be donated to get the troops home. So that's kind of cool too.
Oh, that's really amazing. See, that's such a good way to deal with your miles. I'm spending it on my family because I'm apparently an asshole. I feel so guilty now.
Well, don't worry. It's only those with a lot of body fat that can donate to Miles for Heroes.
He said that, not me. That was not me. Okay, so let's talk about this. Okay, so Haro is going great. You have a very popular blog called petershankman.com, and you've been doing that before everybody and his brother had a blog.
I started blogging. I bought Shankman.com in '95, and I remember my dad going, "You're spending $75. There's nothing there. What the hell are you spending $75?" And of course, now he has a Shankman.com address. And my mom has a Shankman.com. But it was basically the new blog is called A Year to 10%.com, and it started because in 2010 I ran an Ironman. And I wanted to see if I could do it. And I trained, and I did a full Ironman triathlon in about 15 and a half hours. And I said, okay, if I can
like
do
the
it.
one in Kona?
Yeah, that one.
You did that one in Kona?
Yeah, I did the one in Cozumel, which is the exact same distance. Yeah, an Ironman is an Ironman is an Ironman.
Because I watch that on television every year, and they always have the person with one leg and the guy who was dying of cancer. And have you watched that?
I have not, but I have a self-portrait.
Ooh, can they get that up on the thingy so we can see it?
Oh, is that me or you?
That is you. That
Yeah,
is your
that one's me.
self-portrait as of
Can
today.
you see if Elric can get that up so we can see
Yeah,
it?
every week I'm doing a self-portrait. So essentially, my
Okay, so
logic
you did
was
the
Doesn't know Elric
Ironman, and I have a question. So it's 2.2 miles, right?
It's 2.4 mile swim,
Swim.
and then a 112-mile bike ride, and then a full 26.2-mile marathon.
And you actually did it in the under 17 hour
I did it in
cutoff.
under 17. I did it in 15, 45, 41.
Now, just so people know, by the way, the really fast guys do that
Do it in
in
about
like
9.
And the iron, they were doing it in 8 in the
Yeah,
current one.
8, 8.5, 9. Look,
Can you imagine that?
At that point, you're not going to argue between 8 and 9.
Yeah, 2.4 swimming miles, 100. How many? 100 and what? Biking.
12 bike and then a marathon.
And then a full marathon, and they're doing it in 8 hours.
That's just ridiculous. Why would you do that?
It's crazy.
It's crazy,
that fast.
right?
That's crazy.
That's
insane.
crazy. And then there's also a guy who's like 85 who's been doing
Yeah.
it for like 25 years.
Yeah, I beat him. But
Okay, so you did the Ironman, but obviously.
well, that's where I got this idea. I did the Ironman, and I'm walking around, checking in, like getting my race number and like parking my bike and getting ready for the race. And I'm surrounded by, this is Cozumel, Mexico, so it's gorgeous out. It's like November. It's like 80 degrees. Everyone's in t-shirt and shorts, with their shirts off. And for some reason, there were just a ton of Germans doing the race. So it's like all these Germans with like no body fat.
Yeah, of course, right?
And they're like, yes, this morning I raced 80 miles on the water, and I blew past the ferry, and then I biked over to Florida and back, and then and I'm like, God, you're all douches. And
yeah, right.
And
with my monkey.
And I'm sitting there with my fat ass going, okay, well, yeah, here we go. And they're like, oh, are you going to be in the Ironman? Not racing in the Ironman. Are you going to be in the Ironman? Yeah, I'm going to be in the Ironman, you douche. And so I did it, and I proved that I could finish.
Do you need to use the word German and douche together? Is that redundant?
I don't know. They just seemed like the ones that were that were the most intimidating were the Germans.
Right.
And but I finished it. I'm like, all right, I finished it. But you know what? I dropped about 20 pounds while training. But the worst part was I was on a plane about 2 weeks before the race, and I wound up talking to this guy next to me, and he was a VC out of this VC firm in Austin, and he was going to do it. He had done a bunch of Ironman. He looks at me, he goes, so you're doing Cozumel? He goes, wow, you're carrying a little weight to be doing an Ironman, huh?
He did not say that.
I swear to God, I'm like, wow, that was just.
Okay, so here's the question then.
When you don't want to invest in a company, do you just like curse their mother out? I mean, what the hell is wrong with you?
Who's douchier, VCs or Germans? That's
this VC.
This VC, okay.
And so it's just horrible. So I'm like, let me see, but I figured out what the problem was. The problem was, you bust your ass training, so I'll bike like 100 miles in the morning, and like to celebrate, I'll eat like half a cow in the evening. I'm like, all right, that's the problem.
Right, and they talk about that, by the way. They say that a lot of people who exercise, they exercise so that they can reward themselves later. So they'll like go to the gym and they'll run 3 miles, which is only 300 calories, by the way. And then they'll go to Starbucks and get the muffin, which is 600 calories, by the way. And so then they're like, I don't understand. Why aren't I losing weight? I work out every day.
I burned about 8,400 calories during the Ironman. But so it basically comes down to this: abs and like bodies and six packs and all that crap.
It's food.
Not made in the gym. And so I just wanted to see if there was a way to do this without giving up everything I love, because basically the word diet equates to failure, but life change, is better.
Right.
And so like this morning, I'm in the airport, and I walk into the lounge, the President's Club, the airport lounge, which I live in that airport lounge, and the thing about that airport lounge is they have cheese, and they have Fritos, and they have Bloody Marys, and it's the most wonderful thing in the world. And I sat down with my laptop, with my apple, and my fresh tomatoes, and my Diet Coke, and I'm like, wow, okay. But you know what? It wasn't terrible.
Right.
And so like I'm packing almonds and raisins wherever I go, and it's like it's not a diet; it's more of a life change. And so I want to, and by doing it publicly, can't screw up. I can't decide one day, okay, it's not working. I'm seeing what I can do. I'm down 6 pounds since the beginning of the year.
That's not bad.
And I'm back to the gym. I'm back to boxing. I'm not doing an Ironman again this year. I'm gonna do the New York City Marathon instead in November. So.
And you're doing a half marathon before that, right?
Yeah, I got the New York City half in March, 2 Olympic distance triathlons, and then the New York City Marathon. For me, it was just a way to prove that it could be life change. Because my big thing is I'll train for these things. I'll lose a ton of weight, and then like a month after it's over, I'd put it all back on. And I'm just sick of that yo-yo thing. I really want to. See if I can.
Okay, so if you get to 10% body fat, first of all, what do you predict your weight's going to be?
Probably about 180, 170, 180.
And when was the last time you weighed 180?
I don't know, 8th grade? No, I'm kidding. Probably in my 20s. Probably my 20s.
That's crazy. But I assume you're not going to. Your goal isn't going to be to maintain 10% body fat. Like, what's your realistic?
Well, I'd like to be. Well, I want to see how I feel when I'm there. I wouldn't mind staying between 10 and 15. For a 6 foot tall guy, 10 and 15 is pretty decent. And if the fact of the matter is, if I like the food I'm eating, there's no real reason to start scarfing down McDonald's again.
Okay, well, did you know, by the way, that it's been proven that you're more likely to be heavier if you drink diet soda? Did you know that?
Oh, yeah, but you're also likely to be heavier if you drink alcoholic drinks, and so I stopped drinking as well. I wanted to see if I could get through the entire year without drinking as well.
Yeah, I was just pointing it out because you had the Diet Pepsi. I was trying to give you a tip.
I know. I fluctuate between water over here and Diet Pepsi over here. Diet Pepsi mostly because I'm exhausted from traveling all day. But I'll make you a promise. I haven't put this on the blog yet, so I'll give you a sort of a first-time promise here on your show.
Oh, like a scoop, an Annie Duke scoop.
It's an Annie Duke scoop.
Nice.
We need a graphic for this moving forward.
Yeah.
If I get to 10%, I do a ton of speaking gigs all around the country, all around the world. If I get to 10%, first speaking gig I have after 10%, I will take my shirt off on stage during the speech.
Do you know who else did that? Perez Hilton.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to look a hell of a lot better than that guy.
I hope so.
Did you know Perez Hilton, when he was losing weight, he kept putting videos of himself up on his thing with his shirt off?
Yeah, I won't be doing that.
And he wasn't 10% body fat when he was doing it.
Yeah, it's the same reason that it's like spandex. Spandex is a privilege, not necessarily a right.
This is the thing that I say. Okay, I'm so glad you said that.
Spandex is not in the Constitution. There's no amendment that your ass is allowed to wear spandex when you weigh 245 pounds.
This is what, I don't, there seems to be something like, there's two things. Really, really heavy people in the stretch pants, number one. And number two, there should be some rule about shorts.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I'll tell you the best thing. I always wanted to create a reality TV show called Do You Own a Mirror? Where we walk up to people on the street with a camera crew and ambush them and go, look at this! Do you know what this thing is? And I always thought that would be the greatest reality show ever.
Hey, you're going to be so proud because we've got the photo of you.
Oh, wow, there we go.
There you are. Look at that. All right, so we should check in. We should have like the Peter Shankman project. And we'll check in. We're gonna show your progress. We'll like line them up. We'll keep checking it. I want to check it because I had a little Twitter rant today. As much as you can rant in 140 characters, by the way, which is not a lot. Let me just say that. So have you heard about this thing Insanity?
No.
Okay, so have you heard of P90X?
P90X Insanity. Yeah, that's what I thought you were talking
about.
Okay, yeah.
Yes. So Insanity is like P90X, except you don't need you don't need weights and you don't need the chin-up bar and you don't, right, okay, and it's with this guy, Sean T, who Joe now wants to kill. It's like that, you know what the difference between my boxing trainer, Ricky, and Sean T is? He says this to me today, he goes, my boxing trainer, Ricky, goes, is your back okay? That's what he said. Sean T goes, I don't care what's wrong with your back. Keep doing it. So anyway, I'm doing Insanity. So I've been doing Insanity for 2 weeks. Now, and I followed it to the T. Now, I also happen to be sprinkling in my Bikram yoga. Mm-hmm. So this is a little insane, right? So I have not lost 1 frickin' ounce, man. See, you're shocked, right?
I'd be curious to see if you put on muscle. I bet you put on muscle weight.
Maybe, I guess, but honestly, I think muscle weight, I think that's a myth to make people feel better.
No, it's not. Lean mass versus body fat is huge. Check out, there's a great scale that I own. It's called, it's a digital scale that connects to my Wi-Fi network, and so I can go online and see my progress every day, and it just records it. It's called WiThings, withings.com.
Okay,
and there actually is a difference. They do this test where they throw your ass in a pool of water, right, and you actually displace more water with fat than you do with lean muscle mass.
Right. Yeah.
If you're working out and you're lifting whatever, you're gaining muscle.
I guess I don't know, but okay. So I was doing Bikram yoga 6 days a week. I mean, now I know that that's not like lifting your own, body weight, but what?
Well,
Archimedes. I was having a frickin' brain. You didn't know this, but I was having a brain fart because you said displacing water in the bath, and I'm like, Archimedes. Anyway, well, I was just, was having one of those things where I was like in my head, I was like, it's not Euripides. Anyway, so Bikram yoga isn't exactly like lifting, and definitely I'm doing all these plyometrics. By the way, do you do plyometrics?
Yeah.
That's what you do in hell.
Yeah.
Right?
Plyometrics are not fun.
Right? Have you ever done plyometrics?
Never done it. But I thought P90X was worse than all of that.
It is. But okay. This is a little, but plyometrics, literally, he's like, and jump as high as you can, up and down for 15 minutes. until you die.
Essentially, it's plyometrics is a modified version of CrossFit, which is essentially high impact or high energy, high repetition, high impact cardio.
Yeah, my boyfriend went and tried one of the.
You don't get a chance to let your heart rate go down.
Right. We went and we tried the CrossFit one day. We were like that.
Love CrossFit.
So
but again, I want to talk. I mean, for someone who's complaining that not losing weight, it's not like you're overweight. You're actually quite hot. So for what it's worth, this is the world's smallest violin quartet, and it's playing for your lack of weight loss. Just so we're clear.
Okay, but a pound. Like a pound. Like I'm not asking. Like, look, I'm not saying I've got to lose 50 pounds or something. But you think a pound.
Right.
There we go.
I can't figure out how. Like I'm doing Bikram
the
4
Bikram,
times
you'd
a
think
week.
that for sure, just off of.
Have you ever done Bikram? By the way, you should do that if you want to get to 10% body fat.
I've done Bikram. I love the sweat. I just can't. I have no balance. I fall on my ass every.
Well, then that's why you should be doing it.
Falling on my ass in front of 30 sweaty hot women is not really what I want to be doing on a daily basis.
I'm a huge Bikram addict. So I've been doing Bikram 4 times a week, and then I do the Insanity at home with Shaun T screaming at me. By the way, 2 of my children have started doing Insanity with me. Not my 15-year-old, because she's like, whatever. But 2 of my other kids are doing it with me now, which is pretty awesome. So they're kind of into it. But so I'm a little frustrated. So I want to find out where you're, because I don't think I'm eating badly, because I'm like you. I've got the raisins and the almonds and the apple.
You know what it is? Here's everyone's like, oh, what's your eating plan? Here's my eating plan. My grandmother passed away about 3 years ago at 98. If I look at it this way, if I eat something, it has to be something that my grandmother, when she was 20, would have recognized as food.
Hey, do you read Michael Pollan? Because that sounds very Michael Pollan-esque.
I know that he says a similar thing. I've heard it before, but it's so freaking true. If you can catch it, grow it, or kill it, eat it.
Right.
It's that simple. And the fact of the matter is, I've started to really enjoy cooking again.
Right.
And for a 38-year-old single guy in Manhattan with 2 cats, who's also straight, that's really cool. To be able to start cooking again is pretty awesome.
Wait, you have 2 cats and you're straight?
I swear to God, yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
It's unprecedented in New York.
That is unprecedented in New York. That should make you a really big catch, because I'm a girl, I like cats, but it took me a while to get my boyfriend to agree to having cats. He was like, cats? That would threaten my manhood. He didn't really say that,
but the street about a year apart, and they let me live with them.
They let you live. See, cat owners are like that, by the way.
Right.
I love my 2 cats. They rule my world. I love them. I got them for my daughter, who won't do the Insanity, because she begged me for cats. So I got them to her. She was like, thanks. Whatever. That's it.
Cats are cool.
Now she doesn't come up in the morning, though, because she's patting the cats. I have to come down and yell at her. Time for school. Anyway, that was a digression. Okay, I'm going to follow your progress, though, because I like this, because I do everything. If I don't recognize it, I don't eat it. No processed food, everything homemade. And,
not even something's homemade. It's like I'm not gonna sit there and create jerky out of beef that I've killed. But it's like, it's just basically there's so much crap added to so much of our food that even just cutting out say, okay, I'm gonna have a lot of meat, but I'm just gonna cut out breads or whatever.
Right.
I mean, I'm not a nutritionist, and I'm probably the worst offender of all, because I'm on a plane all the time. But I proved today, okay, I had 2 hours to kill in a delayed O'Hare, so I went to the club, and I literally was surprised, holy crap, they have apples.
Right, you didn't notice that before, right?
I've never seen those. I'm like, are those
I will
new?
tell you, though, when you're in the Memphis airport, don't try that trick of trying to find an apple.
Yeah, they're fried apples. Actually.
Right, because I got stuck in the Memphis airport, and I was trying to find something to eat. Not easy, and then I was like, really? There literally wasn't a piece of fruit.
Yeah, you're gonna get a lot of barbecue. You're gonna get a lot of deep fried.
Not even at how Starbucks will sometimes have some fruit by the
no bananas.
There were no
Starbucks bananas.
No bananas. The banana pudding.
I will give a plug for this company. I just found them online. I have no financial gain whatsoever. I just found them and I ordered stuff because I love their name and it's really good. It's they make beef jerky and buffalo jerky and all that, and they're called, honest to God, this is their name, Climax Jerky. Because I think they're made at the Climax Pass in some mountain or something.
Oh, okay. Well, my boyfriend's a huge jerky fan.
It is so good. Yeah, it's addictive.
Okay.
Very, very good.
All right. Watch the sodium on the jerky, though. Okay, so
yeah, that's the thing. You have a couple of pieces, and it as long as you have it with a bottle of water or something, you're okay.
Yeah, you need a bottle of water because otherwise I swell up like your 98-year-old grandmother. All right, so we're going to wrap up. So just going in, because we were going to have an entertainment mogul here today, but we got a different entertainment mogul here today. Thank you, by the way, so much for coming in. By the way, you're standing in for John Landau, who produced Avatar and Titanic. So
I know, I'm kind of flattered about that.
Yeah, exactly.
You gotta wonder how many of your fans are like, who the hell is this guy?
You outstripped him. And not even by taking your clothes off. Oh, except you did, because we had a picture of you.
No, we have you with your clothes off, and
right.
we will throughout the season.
That's right. I'm so excited. No, we're going to keep track of you like once a month. We're going to have like the Shankman report.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about it. Okay, so because in honor of John Landau, who couldn't be with us today, I want to know, what is your entertainment highlight of 2010?
Oh man. Entertainment highlight of 2009. I think I had to be, and this is going to sound terrible, but I was just so morbidly fascinated by Lindsay. And
I didn't think about that as entertainment, but that's a good answer.
That's an ongoing saga.
It really is, both from a media side. I mean, I remember my assistant actually was videotaping me because she was so amazed that I was doing this. When TMZ broadcast the live court proceeding, I was glued to that shit. It was incredible. I was just fascinated by it. It was, and I don't know why, but it was so addictive. It was so addictive.
I got it. That's a really good answer. Yeah. I loved when she was sitting in court like this, and she had
with the F-U, whatever it was, right?
Yeah, and you were like, really? Do you think that's a... that kind of proves you're on drugs. Good
legal move there.
That doesn't seem like very smart in a court of law. And then she gave her fake crying thing, like, I didn't know that I was violating my parole by doing meth. I thought that was okay. What was your highlight?
Wow, you know what? I didn't think 2010 was on par with recent years from an entertainment standpoint.
It was a little slow on the movies.
Definitely slow on the movies, but I would say just because I hadn't been into it before and I had finally got into it this year, would have been the season of Mad Men. It kind of opened my eyes to the show.
By the way, Mad Men, so good. How about The Walking Dead, though?
Love The Walking Dead, but Mad Men had been something everybody had been trying to get me into for a long time, and I just wouldn't relent. And this year I was like, screw it, I'm going to watch it. And so now I'm catching up on all the other seasons, and it's been kind of carrying over to 2011.
It was so good, right?
Yeah, I'd agree with that as well.
Okay,
I think there's also the iTunes has gotten me into all these things that I should be watching, but I'm never home to watch.
Right.
Yep.
I've got a couple things actually, because I couldn't really decide. So the first thing is Modern Family, which I just think is complete genius. Mm-hmm. And I look forward to that every single week. And then my TiVo captures 2 minutes of Cougar Town, which is also a highlight of my week. 'Cause I really just look, I'm like, that's sort of the look I have, like, why is this on the air? I mean, if it ever went past 2 minutes, I'd have to shoot myself in the head. But I do enjoy the 2 minutes. But Modern Family, I think, just as an ensemble cast, there isn't a weak spot. The writing is amazing. I love that show. And I think Walking Dead as well, which was great. And then my other two are Lady Gaga and the meat dress.
Oh, yeah.
That was pretty fabulous, right? And then
as soon as I saw that, though, I'm like, that's going to screw Halloween for us.
By the way, apparently, like Lady Gaga and however her forms are, was the most popular Halloween costume this year.
Between that and the Old Spice guy, I'm like, Halloween's so screwed.
That is true. That is very true. And then the last thing was 127 Hours, which I thought was just true. Did you see that?
Oh, yeah, the arm guy.
Yeah, the arm guy, the cutting off the arm guy, right. It's really good.
Yeah.
So that was it for me. I'm going to show up next week in a meat dress. No, I'm not. I'm going to show up next week in a meat dress with a naked picture of Peter Shankman.
There you go.
There we go. Peter, thank you so much for joining us. We really, really appreciate it. You were amazing. We'd love to have you back to see your progress.
Anytime you guys want.
Will you come back? You can strip on the Skype.
You gotta do.
Maybe if you're in LA, you can come in person and show off your Adonis-like
I'll make
physique.
you a deal. Wait, I'll be in LA around. I'm in LA once a month, but I'll come in June and I'll do a live. I'll do a live on camera.
Oh, nice! Like a 6-month update. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Chops, thank you for coming in and
Absolutely.
substituting for Brian, taking you out of the corner.
Yes.
A delight as always.
Yes.
We will be back next week. I'm actually not sure who our guest is next week, but I know I'll be here. And I think Brian will be back.
Yes.
So thank you so much. That's it. We're out of time.